You might think that solar panels cost an absolute fortune. It doesn't have to. Today we're going to be talking about how you can put a solar system on your house when you're on a budget. If you've got about £5,000 to spend on a solar system, this video is going to be for you. I'm going to break down the different types of products, what decisions to make, the best way to fund and finance a solar system so you can get your bills to rock bottom and get the best possible return on investment. Let's go. Let's just get straight into it. Solar panels. Most people would think, I don't have any choices, I've just got to go with what they're asking. Absolutely not. I'm going to start by breaking down all the different options that you've got available and where I think you should be negotiating, or if nothing else, just asking the question. So let me train you. Let's start with the solar panels. You have a couple of choices here. You can either go to your installer and go with their preferred option. So that will be their panel they order in most regular. They probably will have a reasonable price point on that, and they'll always have their preferred solar panel. And let's say you can get 10 of these for your £5,000 budget. You might be able to get 12 to 14 solar panels by looking at the previous stock range. Wholesalers, and I know this personally, regularly email me at least twice a month saying, we've got these solar panels, we want to shift them. We can do you an offer, £40, £30 a solar panel, significantly less because they want that stock out of their warehouse because installers are prioritising the latest solar panels. But only 12-18 months ago, we were installing these solar panels saying they were the best craze. So if you're looking at trying to wring the cloth and get the most out of it, one of the savvy things I would be asking is there any old stock that I could make the most of that may well help A, the installer, and B, the wholesaler, and C, moreover, yourselves? How many solar panels should you have? And this is another choice that you've got. Personally, you want to look at your annual generation. You'll be able to find this on your utility bill, and this will give you an idea of how much energy you use per year in kilowatt hours. Each solar panel, if I'm south-facing, will generate you about 350 to 400 kilowatt hours per year. Let's use the lower figure of 350 kilowatt hours per year. So if I have a usage of 3,500 kilowatt hours a year, my recommendation would be to go for 10 solar panels. 3,500 divided by 350 gives me the lucky 10 number. If you've got the ability to squeeze your installer a little bit more and get a couple of extra panels, I would always suggest doing so, providing your budget allows. As a spring/summer 2025, I just wanted to give you a bit of an idea of the wattage that we would be fitting right now. So kind of a minimum wattage would be around 440. There are some higher versions, so we actually go up to 510-ish actually now in a domestic range. They're just a longer solar panel, so watts per square metre, they're roughly the same. But if you're negotiating and you were thinking, I want to get a couple more panels, have a chat with your installer. I know that wholesalers are clearing out stock that are 405 watts a panel to 420s. So you might be able to sneak an extra couple of panels on, pay the same amount, but achieve higher level of generation and still receive all the same warranties that you would be used to before. They're often the same panels, just a slightly older version with the same manufacturer. Ask the question. If I'm on a budget of £5,000, chances are you're not going to go for an in-roof solar system. Your costs will be higher, the parts cost more. Unless you've only got a very small array, 4 to 6 panels, you're probably not going to have the budget to go for in-roof. So my suggestion would be, if I'm on a budget, just look at the on-roof solutions. Unless you're re-roofing, then there could be a few savings to make. If I'm on a budget and I've got £5,000 to spend, chances are you'll be looking at a string-only inverter, which is what I've got here. This takes the DC, so the direct waveform that the solar panels generate, and convert it to AC, which is the energy that we use in our home. Think boiling a kettle. A little option that you might want to consider is a hybrid inverter. Now at this point we've said, well, we're not going to install batteries, but a hybrid inverter would allow you to come back to batteries at a later date. Which if you kind of think long term, I might want to add a battery, I'm not sure right now, rather than needing to buy a separate inverter, you can go for that, but expect to pay a little bit more, probably in the region of £500 to £1,000 more for a hybrid option over a string inverter. Don't worry if you pick a string inverter. because later on you can add a battery as AC coupled, which sits independently from this system. So if you make a decision now, don't worry, you're not locked down with a ball and chain. Now, this might mean a load of gobbledygook to you. If you want to find out a little bit more about the types and styles of inverters, I've done a separate video and I'll include one in the comments below. Scaffolding. Many people don't kind of think of this as an integral part of the installation. It's absolutely necessary for the team of installers installing your solar panels. Typical scaffolding costs will massively vary depending upon the type of roof you've got. If you've got a bungalow and it's a really low down roof, expect a good deal on your scaffolding. If you're a townhouse that's 2 or 3 stories high and it's quite awkward to get to, or we're installing on multiple arrays, then expect the scaffolding cost to be higher. Budget around £800 to £1,000 for your scaffolding costs and you probably won't go far wrong. Birdguard seems really expensive, but it's really not. For 10 panels, you need a couple of rolls of Birdguard and a few clips. It takes but a few hours for your installers to install it. If you don't go for Birdguard, it will probably prove to be very expensive later on, and my strong suggestion is do not cut that out of your budget. I've seen a couple of horror stories where people have not gone for it and we've had to put the installation right. Birds love underneath solar panels, particularly on an on-roof system. They build nests underneath. And essentially, if you don't go for Birdguard, you'd be building that same scaffolding back up again, getting pest control in to remove the birds, and then paying for the reinstatement of Birdguard. It could be a really costly error. My strong suggestion is always, always, always go for Birdguard. Now, as a top tip, I know as an installer, it's relatively inexpensive. If you're in a negotiating mood, my suggestion is that's the point to negotiate on, out of all the things to negotiate over. Most installers will charge you maybe £500–600 for a 10 panel array. I'd be suggesting about 30 quid a panel would be a fair price if I were you. I just wanted to break down some of the help and incentives that are available to you if you're thinking of having solar panels. This might just help you squeeze a little bit extra out of your system and get a little bit more bang for your buck. So let's start off with the obvious. Solar panels are 0% VAT, and this is going to be the case until at least April 2027. Our current government are really supportive of solar panels. They really want them installed, so they're planning on maintaining that 0% VAT. The next thing that will help return on investment is Smart Export Guarantee. The average payment out to the national grid is about 15 pence per kilowatt hour you send out to the grid, which will make up for a few £100s worth of credits that can offset against other bills. The one thing to note, these are currently tax-free. It's one of the only income forms that you can earn. So if you're a taxpayer, you can earn this in addition to your current amount and pay absolutely no tax on it at all. So the next thing I wanted to talk about was mortgage rebates and additional borrowing on your mortgage. For the avoidance of doubt, I'm not a financial advisor, so it's really important that you do your own digging. I just wanted to signpost a couple of things for you to have a look at it. Mortgage companies are now offering what's called a rebate. This is effectively where if you just get solar panels installed, they'll give you £1,000 or £2,000 cashback. In the same way where you buy a product like a mortgage, they'll give you a cashback for it. Have a look at that. Mortgage companies will often give you interest-free borrowing as well, up to 5 years. So I know some of the mortgage providers will essentially lend you the money, you purchase the solar system and you pay them back. The main difference with that being, any interest-free offers via the company will cost that company money. So for example, ourselves, if we look at an interest-free loan provider, they will charge the company an average of 18 to 20% in order for us to fund that. We have to just add it onto the total bill. We can't make it come out of thin air. So by borrowing the money from the mortgage company, you have the power in your hands. You're not cutting the margin down to the installer, which will enable you to get better return on investment. You might think, I don't have a mortgage anymore. I paid it off 5 years ago. Well, this is where the next option may well come in. Interest-free credit cards. Loads of credit card providers will lend you money, normally over a couple of years, interest-free. Buy the solar system, and instead of paying your electricity bill, you use that money you're now building credits and savings to pay off the credit card, and in a couple of years' time, you can do what's called a balance transfer, move the money, pay a couple of % on moving it over, and then continue on another interest-free basis. So you can essentially, by being savvy and moving your money around, get the money in interest-free and use the savings you're making to pay off the initial investment. As I mentioned before, I'm not a financial advisor. These are just some great tips that customers have shared with me that I thought I would give you also. Another thing to consider is Eco4 grants. If your council tax band is grade A to D and you have an energy performance rating of C or below, in certain households and on certain income levels, so if you're on universal credit, for example, or other forms of disability benefits, you may be able to get solar panels installed with a government grant. It's often not free. You'll be asked to contribute some element of money together, and you may also have no choice in the solar panels or inverter that is fitted, but there may well be an opportunity. Certainly explore it. As I say, it's not something that we offer as a company, but it is out there, and I really wanted to mention it just in case you can apply. There's a couple of things I would like you to avoid. You might think you're being savvy with this, but you could end up getting stung. From experience, schemes like Rent-A-Roof, which is where a company essentially give you a loan to buy the solar panels, they then own them, it can become very messy when it comes to selling your home. My suggestion is when you buy solar panels, have them and own them. Avoid a Rent-A-Roof scheme. I would also avoid group buying schemes. Councils are teaming up with people like Solar Together, where they're essentially a group buying scheme, and what they do is group a load of people together, drive the lowest cost possible, but you often get really rubbish products and subcontracted installers. And just Google Solar Together and you'll have an idea of the reviews that are there and essentially what a group buying scheme is and how it all works and operates. But my suggestion would be just avoid them. Any company worth their salt will come out and survey your house for free. So many people are charging for quotes. I personally think that's an absolute nonsense. My opinion would be, if you're not prepared to come out and have a look at my job, have a look at my home and have a look at my installation, then they're not worth instructing. If someone's trying to charge you to provide them a quote, avoid. How quotes normally work is an initial conversation. They'll do some designs, get some prices up front, and then vet your installers out, and then shortlist them and invite those people over to your home. If they want to charge you, stick them in the bin. When negotiating a solar system, my suggestion first of all is go and have a feel for the different installers, choose the products that you want on your home, and don't be unreasonable with the installer. They do need to make a profit. You want that installer to be profitable. However, start with your installers, choose your products, shortlist, then negotiate over your products. Don't be tempted just to go, they're the cheapest, we'll go for them. You don't want to pick a subpar product. What you effectively want to do is try and pick the best installer with the best products at a fair price. Now, I'm not necessarily saying to avoid package deals, but do take them with a pinch of salt. Package deals will exclude things, so they may well be a railing system for a particular type of roof, a particular length or height of solar panel, a particular type and style of inverter. You can very rarely have a one-size-fits-all approach to solar systems. My suggestion instead, if you like the look of the company, they've got good reviews, they're registered themselves, they're not just an aggregate marketing company, you've now gone, I quite like the look of them, they're a good local installer, get them into quotes specifically. Don't start trying to compare package versus package, you're just going to get yourself burnt. Instead, start with, I've got £5,000 to spend and I want to get the best possible system for my budget. What products would you recommend? Can you do a design on my home? Don't be scared about telling your installer your budget. It saves them just randomly quoting things, and it means they're going, we've only got £5,000, I might do this, I might do that, and I want to be competitive. State the products that you want to work with. You might say, I want a Give Energy string inverter, for example, rather than one of the cheaper alternatives. Just be a little bit cautious around salespeople because they'll give you vague information. What you should have is a professional approach. An engineer should be coming round before installation. They should be giving you a detailed breakdown of exactly what you're getting. The exact hooks, the exact rails, the exact solar panels, the inverter, how much cable's included, because package deals might only include 5 meters of cable. Terribly sorry, we've had to use 30 meters, and you're then getting a variation bill. You're going to add a budget of £5,000, and they're trying to sting you with extra costs. So always get a professional survey done, get them round, get them to have a look at it, then you can compare and make sure you're getting the best possible installation for your budget. Talking of costs, let's talk about some of the hidden costs. I don't want you to get stung and I want you to make some good decisions. So we've talked about different types of solar panels. We've talked about railing systems. We've talked about the potential hidden costs of not including bird guard and the importance of making sure that's there and making sure the scaffolding is specifically quoted for your property. A couple of other hidden costs are things like roofing repairs. So this is why you want a professional survey from an engineer, because they're going to come around and look at your ridge line and make sure your pointing's not coming off, that you got no slipped tiles or things aren't broken, because you effectively want to do any little roofing repairs whilst you're up there before the solar panels get installed. If you come back to try and do a roofing repair after the solar panels are installed, that could prove to be very costly. One of the other things I just wanted to mention as well was grid applications. Many installers, when they're trying to cut down on cost, will look for a little side exit that they can go out of to try and drive that cost down. If you've got more than 8 solar panels, you want your installer to do a G99 application and appropriately specify the size of inverter to match the number of solar panels. Inverter oversizing is normal, but only up to about 20% of your solar array. It's really important that the size of inverter and solar panels are very similar to one another to avoid throttling generation and to give you the maximum possible return on investment. Another thing that's sometimes not included in a package is a fuse board. Often when we install solar panels, we have to install new circuits, which we have to install one from a string inverter, up to the latest standards of regulations. This doesn't mean we need to rewire the entirety of your home, but what it may well mean is that we have to install a new fuse board or replace the existing one that's there. A typical 10-way fuse board would cost in the region of about £500 to £700, depending on where you are in the UK. Bear in mind, if you want to replace a fuse board at the same time as solar panels, provided it's an ancillary part, that's also at 0% VAT. Expect to pay in the region of about £300 to £350 for a little sub-distribution board if your mains board doesn't need replacing. So for about £5,000, what should you expect? Well, I would expect around 10 solar panels, 440 watts, bifacial, so the latest versions. If you're looking at older models, you might expect slightly more, depending on the time involved in installing. That would be on a concrete roof with bird guard, I may well add, and a string inverter like this Give Energy one next to me with a 12-year warranty on it, and scaffolding all wrapped up for £5,000. Now, you might expect to spend a little bit more if you've got, for example, an east and west orientation, because it takes a little bit more. We've got weathering in seals, and you might have multiple strings. A £5,000 price would be based upon a single string. What I mean by that is, if you've got 2 roofs, we need to wire them in separately, but that's what you should be getting for around £5,000. What does that mean for return on investment? Now, obviously, depending on where you are in the UK, solar panels will generate slightly differently, but as a rule of thumb, this solar system should pay for itself in around 5 to 7 years. So how does that 5 to 7 years break down? If we think 10 solar panels, each one's going to generate around 350 to 400 kilowatt hours, we could expect somewhere between 3,500 and 4,000 kilowatt hours generation per year. Now, when you go for solar only, if you're at home all day, you can expect a better return on investment, getting more towards that 5-year mark. If you're out all day, then you can expect it to go to the higher end. This is because for every kilowatt hour of energy exported out the grid, you get about 15 pence. If you're out working, then the majority of generation will be sent out to the grid and you'll only realise a 15 pence per kilowatt hour benefit for it. But if you're in the majority of the day, let's say in half the day, and you can use, say, 40% of your energy, then typically speaking, depends on the tariff, depends what you're paying, and there are a couple of caveats, I would expect a saving in the region of about £700 to £900 per year for a string-only system. Roughly speaking, 5 to 7 years. So you've done all this assessment. The next step, to be honest with you, is just going out there and asking for quotes. Sometimes you think, I don't want them to cram it down my neck. Most installers worth their salt, if they're decent or local, won't want to start cramming it down your neck. Instead, what they'll want to do is give you a broad comparison. Talking of comparing quotes, we've done some videos on the channel of comparing different types of quotes, looking at different types of solar panels. If you follow the channel, got loads of stuff that's due out as well that'll really help you assess what to look for. Don't wait, start comparing. Thanks so much for your time today.